I think we're live. Hello, everyone. This is Juliana. Thank you for joining me this Friday afternoon, this lovely Friday afternoon. I figured I'd join you a little bit early and we could just kind of I don't know, chill out as we're waiting for my guest and as we're waiting for our talk time. We're starting at about 2 o'clock. We're talking about the anatomy of a sales call, and I'm going to be hanging out with my buddy Dustin. So it is a good Friday afternoon for me. I have a lot of background noise today. My kids are home. Both of them are home. It's a PA day, and there was a case of COVID in my son's school, in my son's classroom. So we've actually been on lockdown over here. We were tested. Test came back negative, but we're going to honor it for another week. Make sure that we spend those first, those full 14 days isolated and do our parts. And so yeah, there might be background noise today. I do apologize for that, but we're going to be talking about the anatomy of a sales call, and I'm always just excited about creating great connections. And we do this for a living. Some of us are marketers, some of us are salespeople, some of us are business owners, and and I think there's a great value in hearing from others and how they're doing it, what works for them and what's successful for them. So that's what we're talking about today. And for anyone who is on, I'm not sure actually what platforms you can message on. If, like, I know on Twitter you can, or Periscope. um, on LinkedIn maybe, I'm not sure. Facebook. But please let us know where you're tuning in from. And yeah, really excited to hear who's joining us today. Hear from anyone who's joining us today. And we've got about 3 minutes till our launch time. While we wait to kick things off, there's some of that background noise I mentioned. While we're waiting to kick this off, LinkedIn's idea of the day is about peaks and valleys, and I think this one's pretty cool. The quote they have is, "Both good fortune and bad fortune will come your way. You can't get overly down or overly up and get complacent. You have to have the energy to keep charging ahead." I think sometimes a really great high can kind of throw us off in terms of what's normal, or really deep low can throw us off what's normal. So let's definitely remember to kind of keep ourselves balanced. Today, the topic is, thank you for the question from LinkedIn. We're talking about the anatomy of a sales call. I'm going to be joined by SaaS sales experts, Dustin Meneses. He's going to join us soon. And yeah, we're going to talk about everything from how do you get that person on the phone, especially right now. Literally, we're talking about sales calls because this is what we're doing, right? Whether it's by phone or whether it's a Zoom or anything like that. We're essentially trying to connect with people remotely. So, how do you get people on the phone? How do you get them engaged and not wanting to hang up on you the moment they discover that you are trying to sell them something? How do you build rapport? How do you figure out what the needs are of the person that you're speaking with? And 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 then that close, which is difficult, and you might not actually have a close on a first sales call. But there are a lot of elements here that are kind of formal. We can easily talk about building rapport, closing the deal, and but if we just think about this in terms of humans, we're human beings having conversations, and human beings like to do business with people they like. And so, yes, we're talking about the anatomy of a sales call, but we're also talking about real connection, and how if you are driven to help, and if you have a product that can serve and help others, you want to be really effective at that conversation. It's not just about hitting sales quotas; it's about helping and reaching people. I am going to add Mr. Dustin to our call here. Hello, Dustin. You are muted right now, so you've got to unmute to say hello.
Hi, everybody. How are you?
I am good. It is a lovely Friday. I don't know about you. My kids are skating. a lot of background noise. I've already warned folks of that. I don't know if you have a similar situation at your place.
Yeah, I definitely do. So my child is one of my child is home from school. It's a PA day today, or professional development day, I guess, for the teachers.
Yeah.
And you're hearing a lot of like I guess it's like ballet music and dancing in the background. She loves to dance,
Uh-huh.
and so they're cleaning up their room and they're dancing away. Mom and daughter
Oh,
are
that's
doing.
adorable.
Yeah, they're really cute, but it's really funny. And because I was having a sales call recently, and then they're like, "Is that the Nutcracker?" Dun, 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 dun,
Uh-huh.
dun, dun,
Yeah.
dun. Anyways, it was funny.
Yes, and you get a free performance with your call today.
Exactly.
I know. I
Exactly.
think my background noise is a meltdown around when media time can start. So it'll be interesting. Who doesn't like to see the raw personal experience? So if you're
Yes,
here for a shout out,
yeah, the
yeah.
uncut behind the scenes.
Exactly. That's what I'm bringing you today, raw and real. Um, I'm so grateful. We've already got some awesome folks messaging us on Periscope and LinkedIn. So I'm really glad that people are engaging today, and it shows me it shows me some of the viewers that not the viewers, but it shows me sort of a number of how many people are logged in. But it's not accurate across every platform. Some share the info and some don't. So it's just kind of nice to see the comments come in because that helps fill the gaps. So thank you
Right.
everyone who's listening. It's really awesome to have you here. Dustin, I
Yes.
have billed you today as our SaaS sales expert.
Cool. Awesome. Thank you. Thanks for the pressure. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no, well, it's true. I know that you've been, especially in the finance space, for a while, selling SaaS and sales is definitely your jam. From my perspective, I'm honored to be the host today, but also I'm very focused as a marketer and communications person on uh, performance, growth marketing, actual goals. It's lovely to be able to spend your career talking about the things that you're into. But for me, the joy that I get is actually seeing behavior change or seeing
Yeah.
impact, improvement. So that's what I'm bringing to this conversation today. That messaging and thinking around how do we actually achieve those goals and create that behavior change. So, anatomy of a sales call.
Wow, this is interesting. It's funny. So, yeah, that's kind of like a really interesting. It's like talking about religion because um, everyone has a different view
That's
on
true.
on
Mhm.
how on how a sales call should go. And some people focus on other aspects of it. Like, so for example, sometimes people focus on the discovery a lot more than they do on the
Yes.
closing, and others, they focus on the follow up and the next steps. So there's a couple of things, and it's funny if you break them down. Again, there's almost like different sects of salespeople and the
Yes.
discipline that focus
Yes.
on different things. So this should be interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. And especially nowadays, like I did a little bit of a search last night when I was kind of, had nothing to do, anatomy of a sales call. And content comes up about generic calls, but you also
Yeah,
get a lot of content about, um, compliment the office and whatever. Well, we're not in that in-person scenario right now. And
right.
even when we are, a lot of sales calls don't happen in person anymore. So really the sales call, the word call is more accurate today than it's ever been. Um, and it is harder, I think, to engage and build rapport and just be present, engage someone else's presence
Yeah.
when you don't have that in-person element.
Absolutely. And there's some timeless, I would say, words of wisdom for anybody in sales that, regardless of it being in face to face or virtual, or as you say, a kind of really, literally a call now.
Yes.
Um, that could be really helpful, which is
Mhm.
kind of a part of it's part of the conversation here. So, not to kind of lead it in any way, shape, or form, but one of the things that I remember, um, I remember specifically hearing in my, early days as an independent contractor or independent distributor for a company where I was an independent contractor for, was the fact that you always want to smile regardless of the scenario,
Mhm.
because you can hear it. If I don't
Yeah.
smile, you can still hear me smiling. It feels awesome.
Yeah.
And if I
Yeah.
don't smile, you can definitely tell,
Uh-huh.
like the
Uh-huh.
voice. And then there's the eye contact. That's
Yes.
important.
Mhm.
So people who are doing video calls, I applaud you for taking it a step further. This allows you to have eye contact when you don't usually have a chance to. And then the enthusiasm. So that's funny.
Yeah.
The C factor is what it's called back in the day, and so those still play a role.
Yeah.
And funny enough, they're still a part of this, breakdown of a sales call, because there's preparatory stuff that people
Yes.
always forget to do before they
Totally.
get into that point.
Yeah, so that's interesting. So really the anatomy of a sales call, it actually starts before the call begins. Whether you are cold calling or you are heading into a booked call, there's prep that needs to happen in advance. There are steps that get you there, and I think what is difficult about this is self awareness,
Hmm.
because there are going to be some people who have been selling. Like, you could have a coworker that has been selling the same product for so many years and can do it with very little prep.
Right.
You might have some people that are just, they have the gift of gab, and they just can build rapport no problem with anybody. And then there are going to be some people who really need to know, you know, who am I talking to? And then why should they care? Not just why does anyone care about what I'm calling for today, but why should this person care? Um, so I think you could have a list of, here are the preparatory steps you take to prepare, to be ready for your sales call. But the truth is, you have to kind of reverse engineer that list for yourself a little bit. Um, what's your experience been like in terms of prepping for calls, but also learning what that process is like, and coaching others to prepare? Yeah, what are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, the biggest thing is that I've learned over the years of the 25 years that I've been in sales is that number one, you need to put yourself in the client's shoes. You need to remember a couple of key what I call truths about the sales world.
Mhm.
Is number one is you can always do things better with a positive attitude than with a
Mhm.
negative one. Number one.
Yeah.
Okay. Number two is be ready to put yourself in the same shoes as the client, because
Mhm.
clients like to buy, they don't like to be sold. Okay.
Yeah.
So there's a little bit of a paradigm shift that kind of happens when you say, I'm going to put some empathy into this conversation innately overall, and
Yeah.
it'll allow me to have a really decent conversation. I think the truth is that the preparatory side of things is the mentality, you
Hmm.
know and then also how you can actually get to this actual call based on what you're trying to achieve. So begin with the end in mind. This is a Stephen Covey, seven steps of a highly effective person. Begin with the end in mind. Think win-win, right?
Hmm.
And I think the cool thing is that as long as you know what the reason for the call is, it's not to sell somebody, but to see if there's an interest or to get to the next step really should be the micro goal. Um,
Hmm.
and then that allows you to be a little bit more present in the conversation at whatever stage
Hmm.
that is. And so that those are the kind of the big deals I think that people really forget. Um, Preparing for a minute or two, just an idea of an agenda of what you're going to be speaking about in this specific
Hmm.
conversation, it could do wonders for you, because it could really help you proceed to the next step of what you're trying to achieve. So, for example, if you've done a prospecting call and you're just saying, "Hey, my name is Dustin. I'm actually here on behalf of Payment Evolution. Love to have a conversation with people or businesses like yourself because of this.
Yes.
Do you have a moment to speak?" And
Mhm.
and many people are going to be like, "Nah, I'm not interested." It's
Sure.
normal. It's normal.
Yeah. Law of averages. It's going to
Law,
happen.
yeah. So what is the law of averages? So it's funny,
Yeah.
a lot of people hear about that, but they don't know. So the 80-20 rule really is kind of what it ended up being. And now things have slightly changed where they're saying it's 1 in 10,
Hmm.
So if we understand that 1 in 10 people in this world are not interested in almost anything that you want or do,
Yes.
then that's liberating, because you're just like, okay, cool. Then the no
Yeah.
doesn't matter, you know?
Sure.
And
Sure.
so again, that mentality is really kind of important right at the beginning. The reverse engineering side of things is, again, put yourself in their shoes. What's the end result that you want out of this call? And
Yes.
then can we do some things to get there?
Yeah.
And it might need a little bit of psychology, a little bit of thinking through, maybe a little bit of
Mhm.
revamping the words of how you articulate your verbiage or your pitch. But as long as you have a couple of key things, you're going to be able to
For
get there.
sure. So here's oh man, there's so many things that come into my mind. Every time I listen to someone talk, it's hard for me to like jump into the next thing because my mind wants to talk about five things. My apologies, but there's the first time most people saw Gary Vaynerchuk on on a big stage was his TED Talk. I think it was 2008,
Mhm.
and he says something like, my goal is to talk to as many people as possible. I want to meet as many people as possible. And I think that's so interesting because, you just talked about how you need to know what your goal is. And we think so quickly about what our goal is. We kind of skip over that part. Like, my goal is to make a sale. I'm going to a job interview. My goal is to get the job. But that's not actually the goal.
No.
If, for example, you take into account that 9 out of 10 people you talk to cannot be helped by your product, you can't serve them, then your goal needs to be to speak to as many people as possible that can use your product. Right. So then
Wow.
it's not, I'm calling to sell you. If I'm calling to sell you and 9 out of 10 times I'm going to hear no, well, that's really going to hurt my ego and my energy and all of that. But if my goal is to talk to as many people as possible that need what I have, then I can happily hang up the phone when you don't need what I have,
Mhm.
because I don't want to sell you something you don't need.
Yeah, it's as simple as the law of repetition, or kind of a law of doubling. I mean, there's this in the financial world, they talk about how, oh, your goal is to make $1 million. Well,
Yeah.
that's a tough goal. Like, if you just say
Yes.
that, right? But if you say, hey, I have $1,000 and
Yeah.
all I need to do is double my money 10 times,
Yeah.
and then you'll get to the $1 million. And
Hmm.
like, if you have a small goal, how do I double my next, the next opportunity, right? So there could be
For
different
sure.
steps that you take. And so then if you say, hey, there's 10 steps to get there, sure, it'll be difficult and tough to do, but
Yeah.
it's a lot more streamlined. A person's going to
Yeah.
feel a lot more confident being able to say, well, I just need to get through those steps, right? Like, whatever it is. And, one
Hmm.
step at a time, one rung of the ladder at a time. And
Yeah.
people forget that all the time. People want, we live in such a, what do you
Instant
call it?
world.
Instant gratification world.
Yeah.
Yeah. That we want to, I want to, you go on a first, you swipe right on a Tinder, and you want to marry this person from what you see, like, this
Hmm.
is this is
Hmm.
this is very normal. We see that happen. And as crazy as that sounds, it's a thing, right?
Yeah.
So you don't propose for marriage on the first date. And if you do, you're probably not going to get a second, right? So uh, so the same thing with the sales call. Like, you can't be like,
Sure.
my goal is to make sure I switch you over from, what provider you are on this and that, and then you realize that the provider is actually a family member's company, and you're like, oh, that was going to happen.
Yeah, like guaranteeing your shutdown, right?
Absolutely.
So, a number of years ago now, I had the pleasure of seeing Anthony Robbins speak,
Oh,
and he's really cool, like really cool. He's got a great vibe about him, and he really does energize a crowd.
yeah.
And in the midst of some of the brilliant thoughts he shared, and in the midst of some of the jumping up and down and shouting that we were doing, he gave us an activity at one point, and he said, "Okay, I want everybody to pick a neighbor, someone beside them." So when you've all, you've got 10 seconds, everyone grab someone. Cool. We're good. And then he said, I want you to each pick something in your mind, anything. I don't care what it is. And I picked clouds. I don't know. I don't know what the activity is going to be. So I just tell myself clouds. And then he said, okay, now you're each going to take 30 seconds selling each other on the thing in your mind. So now I'm supposed to sell clouds to this woman. That was really interesting. And I found myself like, clouds are really great. They really help our atmosphere, and like everything about my tone and the way I carried myself was apologetic. And then he, at the minute mark, he's like, all right, everyone stop. I want you to do the exact same thing, 30 seconds each. But right now, I want you to believe, know 100% that the person is going to buy what you're selling. And OMG, did
Yeah,
that
big
change
paradigm.
my vibe?
Yeah,
Did that
paradigm.
change the way everything changed.
Huge
And like,
paradigm shift.
yeah,
Huge.
we all know why clouds are so darn important. The question is, why do you need a cloud right now? You know, it was
Mhm.
completely different. And it wasn't me being salesy. It
Mhm.
sure maybe we characterize some of these things as a stereotype, but but it was a confidence because I truly knew that I was going to help this person. You know what a difference, and there was a pride and a confidence in it. Um, Paradigm shift, as simple as that. Brilliant
Yeah.
guy.
Yeah, super. Like I love this stuff. Actually, I had to read his. I was reading a long time ago. Actually, I think how long that was. The Awaken the Giant Within.
Yes.
I've seen his. I've seen some of his. I wanted to do one of his.
Yeah. One
Events.
of the
Or
weekend
yeah,
things.
yeah. I wanted to walk over those coals and smell like
Yeah.
bacon afterwards, and
I
and there's. I'm sure
hear you.
there'll be time. I'm sure, but
Yeah.
yeah, you're completely correct. There's this paradigm shift when you know that they're going to do it,
Yeah.
and the idea is to act like that as much as
Hmm.
possible. And the other thing is also that people forget is like people are very emotional, right? Like, human beings are very emotional. We like to think that we're very logical and have a lot of deduction and
Sure.
common sense. But people are emotional. At the moment that you said clouds, I was like, oh, I thought you were going to say something to the effect of do you remember when you were a kid at the park, just laying down and
Hmm.
looking up at a cloud and seeing they looked like a rabbit and one looked like a dragon and one looked like a
Yes.
dog. You
Yes.
remember that feeling?
Yeah.
And then they'll be like, yeah. And then you'd be like, wasn't it a great feeling reminiscing and being nostalgic about some of the times you used to have just chilling with your friends or your dad or your mom or whomever it was that you were at the
Hmm.
park with when that was happening? Yeah, I love that feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah. Would you like to have that feeling now? Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. Well, all you need to do is take on this cloud right here.
Yeah. Totally.
And then,
Totally.
and be able to kind of like, what? I'm like, yeah, if you take on, I can get you a cloud right now. There's something.
Yeah, that whole what's the guy from Wolf of Wall Street?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Jordan.
Jordan
Yes,
Belfort. Yeah.
yeah, and that whole like sell me this pen thing.
Mhm.
There's a million ways to sell the pen, but what freaks people out is he asks them to sell the pen and they immediately think, "Oh, I'm not going to do this well." Everyone melts down before. So
Yeah.
okay, so we've talked about a little bit about prep. So prep, be prepared in terms of your big talking points. Maybe do a quick Google search of your person, figure out, maybe you went to the same school. I don't know, whatever you might be able to find out that off the top of your head
Mhm.
is a nice entry point. Um, and we've talked about the mindset piece of preparing for your call.
Mhm.
So let's actually talk about that moment where you get on the call, rapport
Ooh.
building, right?
Okay. Okay.
Like this, I think this is the most critical moment of failure. Am I right? Like this is probably where most of us fall flat on our face and want to go eat ice cream and stop working, right?
Yeah. Okay. So there's a couple things that we need to talk about just before that, which
Yeah.
is
Okay. Cool.
basically yes, there is a preparation that we talked about. There is this mindset that's kind of I call it there's a couple of 8 steps that I actually tell my sales team right now, and it's
Okay.
something I learned years ago
Uh-huh.
in a direct sales type of environment, and it's really funny, but it's really basic. Okay, and I'll name them. Okay, first
Okay.
is have and maintain a positive attitude.
I'm
Be
writing
on
them down.
Yeah, yeah, be on time. Be prepared. Okay. Work your area correctly. Work a full day. Take control. Know your goals and respect your clients and customers. Okay, those are the 8 that I tell my team.
Okay.
Okay.
So I'm gonna have to make you repeat them for
Okay.
those listening and
No
for
problem.
me. So the first one,
Have and maintain a positive attitude.
yes, positive attitude.
Okay.
Okay.
Number
And then
2,
was the next one, be on time.
be on time.
Okay, got that one.
Everyone hates it when you're late, and you hate
Sure.
it when people are late for you. So be on time, please. Okay.
Yes. Number 3.
3, be prepared.
Yes.
Okay.
Got it.
Conversation. Do your research. Make sure you have the ability to be aware of any overall objections that you might be able to have. Have a general understanding of those. Be prepared for the call.
Okay.
Okay. Work your area correctly.
Okay.
So you have a territory, right? Okay, so how are you going to do this? You're going to do it geographically. Are you going to do it on, by if it's a nation? Are you going to do it in time zones? So, what are we going to do? Like, how are you going to prepare? So work your area correctly. And if you have a territory, maybe you want to go through, regions or municipalities first, whatever it may be, right? You can be smart about that. The number, is that number? So number 5.
5, yep.
Is work a full day. Work your area correctly, work a full day. What did I say? Where am I at? Be on time. Sorry.
Positive, be on time, prepared, work your area correctly, work a full day.
Yeah, work a full day.
Take control.
Take control.
Got it.
Take control of the situation. Take control of the conversation. Take control. Be assertive, not aggressive, assertive. Very different. One negative, one positive. Okay. Know your goals. So what's the goal of the call? What's the goal that you're trying to reach? If this is call number 1 that you're making and you get a friggin' no, I'm not interested. You got to talk to 100 people to get 10. So don't lose your attitude in number 1. Okay?
Yeah, for sure.
Where am I at now?
And then respect.
Yeah, respect.
Was that one next?
Yeah, I mean, what was the one I just did? Sorry.
So, know your goal. So positive attitude, be on time, be prepared, work your area correctly, work a full day, take control, know your goal, and respect.
Respect your clients and customers. Yeah, I would just say respect your peers, clients, and customers, right? Like everyone's in this world. We could all be really ruthless if we want to be. We don't need to be. We can actually be very helpful. So respect everybody. We don't know what they're going through. Be empathetic. Realize that you in your life is you guys are going through an array of different emotions at any given time, and imagine what other people are going through too. So be respectful. So as long as you kind of have that mindset. So now, let's talk about the kind of like the beginning of the conversation in general.
Cool. So I'm just numbering these, folks. You're going to find them in, I haven't actually done this before, so I'm really hoping it works properly, but I'm putting these and just putting number 8 now, number 8, and I'm hitting enter. And so you'll have that, I called them Dustin's Magic 8 sales steps. So enjoy in the notes there or in the comments, folks.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Okay. And then, and so the only other thing that I think that people really need to talk about, like I said, is like for sure there's going to be typically in any sales call or conversations or pitches, let's say, there's usually about 5 steps. Okay. Many can add one at the beginning, like preparatory, and at the end of like what are follow-up next steps and things of that nature, right? But ultimately, what needs to happen now that you have these 8 steps down, you internalize it, you have your mentality that you're going to be moving forward. Yeah. One of the things that you need to remember very easily is that like people attract like people. Okay. Now it doesn't matter if you're assertive and the person else isn't assertive. If you're assertive and the person you're talking to very quickly, is very docile. So I'll give you an example. Hi, my name is Dustin. I was wondering if I could speak with Juliana. And then Juliana says something to the effect of like, well, I'm a little busy at the moment.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. Like, that you need to understand people need to mirror themselves. Okay. You need to mirror them so that you can gain acceptance, because people will always give you acceptance to something similar to them. Okay. So, if that's the case, if a person's like, if I'm like, hey, my name is Dustin, I'm calling up to have Payment Evolution. I was wondering if I could speak with Juliana. And Juliana says, hey, listen, Dustin, I know actually who you are. I need to know what you're doing because I gotta go, my daughter, and I gotta go now. What's up? Yeah. So don't be like, oh, well, I wanted to call to find out how you're doing. Like, don't go through the long. Be like, oh, simple. You started a trial of Payroll. We wanted to make sure I had a conversation with you and get you onboarded. I wanted to make sure when I can talk to you. Is now a good time or tomorrow or this afternoon? This afternoon. They wanted a result. They wanted something quick. Give them something quick.
Yes, for sure. That makes a ton of sense. So mirror, and before you even hear many words, before you hear the meaning of what they're saying, like I don't have time now, you can probably hear that in their tone, in their energy.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things that I tell a lot of my team, which they laugh at me and they kind of make fun of me when I say this, is like, if you're at home making calls, whether it be a virtual call or just a regular phone call, if you can at the time, because many people won't show their screen, even if you're doing it with them. Close your eyes and feel the tonality. Don't look, you can't see them. Feel what that energy is like coming
Mhm.
into you, because we're all energy, and yes, it's tougher to do maybe just via auditory, but it is something that you'll be able to decipher. Your body can do wonderful things if you just tap in a little bit and focus. you know um
Mhm.
you know it's relevant for so many things,
For
right?
sure. I,
So
I talk about that as being hyper aware. I do communications coaching, and it's funny. The other day, one of my coaching clients that I've been coaching for like 2.5 years. Okay, we had to do something that required video, and so we got on WhatsApp video. And as we saw each other, we realized we saw each other for the first time. And so we both just kind of laughed. It's like, oh, that's what you look like,
yeah.
But clearly we had rapport. There's no way we would have worked together without that rapport. So
Mhm.
when you're hyper aware, when you're hyper present, you can still have that connection.
Mhm.
You just have to really care about the conversation you're having. You can't have your attention divided. You can't be spread thin in those moments.
Present, yeah,
Present.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, because people love, think about when you go on a date. This is going to sound really funny, but I'm going to correlate buying or selling
Yeah.
yourself with selling
Hmm.
something. Okay. But if you go on a blind date
Hmm.
and that person, however funny looking they are, or beautiful looking or whatever, they make you feel like you're the only one that
Yes.
you're paying attention to, that's
Hmm.
being paid attention, that you're the only one in the room. you
Hmm.
know this happens a lot with guys and gals, like, or whoever, like, if they make you feel like you are,
You
you know
matter.
yeah, you matter, or as
Hmm.
Rihanna says, that I'm the only girl in the world, right?
Yeah.
Then the truth is that they're going to pay attention.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's okay that they don't do that to you,
Hmm.
because they are going through their three brains. This is something that we talked about in marketing, or in sales as well. Is like, are they going through the reptilian brain right now?
Yeah.
Are they assessing this as a threat or not, right?
Yes.
Is
Yes.
it getting to the mammalian brain and saying social hierarchy? Where do I feel that there's
Mhm.
power or hierarchy in the social economic kind of scenario that I'm starting to think about that individual, right? And then does it go to our neocortex and find out, saying, hey, this is rational, this, we should be hearing
Mhm.
about this and more.
Mhm.
So as
Mhm.
long as you kind of have, again, you relate,
Yeah.
you become similar to them, you
Mhm.
match the energy, and you think about the way that you talk about, and if those are the three brains that are going through in our mind, because we have a complex system up here, that tries to kind of de-stream the
Mhm.
data coming in, right?
Yeah.
Um, it is it is important for us to realize these things, because as soon
Mhm.
as we do, we can realize that there's a physiological aspect of what we
Totally.
can do in sales. And people are like, "Oh no, sales is just psychology." It's like, no,
Yeah.
no,
Mhm.
it's the mental,
Mhm.
emotional, and physiological side
Yeah.
of how you interact with the person, and the interaction of being able to provide some energy back and forth. So it's really
For sure.
funny when people just say, "Hey, you just got to make 100 calls. Pick up the damn phone." It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, that's too simplified. I'm not trying to make it super difficult, but if you really want to get down to the nitty gritty of being great at your profession,
Mhm.
um, you got to take some time to do this, right? So, and
Yes.
who here is going to be doing that? Well, any small, medium-sized business out there is
Yeah.
going to be selling. So I think they need to take care of learning this a little bit more. And it's one of those 5 pillars. I think Kerwin Ray talks about these 5 pillars that are necessary for you to do really great in entrepreneurship and sell really well, or just in
Mhm.
general, which is number 1, your mentality; 2, the leadership aspect of things; 3,
Mhm.
sales, actually marketing, conversion specifically;
Mhm.
and then actually planning and execution, right? So
Yeah.
those are the big ones that people really think about. And so
Mhm.
this is actually much bigger than we think. We're
Yeah.
we're going to simplify it with a couple of steps here, but yeah,
Yeah.
it's crazy if you think about it. It's not as simple as just mimic a person. It's talking about, if you want to make it easy, all it is be respectful,
Mhm.
treat them like you want to be treated, right?
Yeah.
And understand that if they don't want to talk to you right now, it doesn't mean that they won't come back a week
Yeah.
to 2 weeks, a month later, when they
Totally.
are interested, because they're like, oh, where did I hear about Payment Evolution? Why does that
Yeah.
name come up on my mind?
Mhm.
And you
Mhm.
don't know, and then subliminally, I'm just going to Payment Evolution or
Yeah.
my service to go look for that, because that does happen so often.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Research even shows, like they've brought, you know, thousands of university students in front of a computer and told them, you're going to get $5 for being a part of the study, and they put them through a survey. And what they don't actually realize is on the sides of the screen, logos are being shown for like 10 seconds at a time, 1 minute at a time. And at the end of the survey, they're asked which logos they prefer. And in every single case, they all say, I've never seen this before, and this is the one I prefer. And every single case, people choose the logo that was on the screen longer.
Mm.
Familiarity.
Crazy.
So it really, really, like, we're animals, and in the wild, you do what you've done before because that you survived it. So why would you walk around the mountain the other way if you don't know that that's safe?
Right.
So we're built to do what is safe and familiar. So yeah, even just putting yourself out there. And I think that I mentioned Gary Vaynerchuk earlier. That I think is Gary's whole thing. He's out there all the time. And a lot of people hated him on day one. And
you swear too much.
You swear too much. Why are you so angry? All of that. I actually loved it because you don't usually see that kind of, I don't know, just like jumping out of your skin energy in business. And I feel like that sometimes. So I really related to him, but he's been out there so much that now he's familiar, and now people have actually had a chance to hear him, and they're like, oh, what he says makes sense, but it's true. The delivery matters. And you're likely to write off somebody who doesn't speak like you right away, just out of familiarity. There is this,
you want to say hi?
Oh, we want to say hi. We've got a live stream and a guest.
We got a nice headscarf. Can you say hi to Juliana? Say hi,
Juliana. Hi, gorgeous.
So we have a PA day here going. So listen, I'm going to ask you to talk to Momskis, and she's going to help you out because I'm having a conversation with Auntie Juliana here.
Bye, sweetie.
Okay. Love you. Love you. Talk to you soon. Okay. Bye, sweetie.
What a gorgeous little thing you made.
Oh, thank you. Just looks like her mom. I got nothing. I can't take any credit, unfortunately.
Well, some. Okay, so I wanted to talk about. We talked about familiarity. But there was another piece around. It's okay. We can go to the next thing that was on my agenda rather than what had come up in my mind.
Yeah.
Okay.
We talked about mimicking, right? That was kind of the segue,
totally.
and now you're saying a little bit more about the structure of.
Yeah. So when we talk about, I know what I was going to say. Like when you walk into a party, like let's say you walk into a party and you don't know very many people there. Maybe it's a party where a lot of people don't know each other. Maybe it's like a client mixer or something, at a company Christmas party or something where they invite clients. You can literally tell who's got rapport by just looking at them.
Absolutely.
Looking at two people talking, right?
Absolutely.
So, to your point, to mirror, the reason why mirroring works is because that's what we naturally do when we're actually connecting with somebody. If I'm connecting with somebody, having a deep conversation and their arms are crossed, I'm likely to cross my arms eventually because I'm just so aligned.
Right. You start yawning, they start yawning.
Yeah, right.
It happens all the time.
Yeah.
It's funny. I mean, we don't know why we yawn. We say it because it's tired, but many people say that people are regulating their wavelength. They're just they say that. I don't know.
Setting, who knows?
Yeah, whatever, man.
Who knows? But it is really interesting how much we are physiologically connected in that way.
Yeah, okay. It's funny when you talk about people specifically, like going into a party. Like remember, like you said, this closed body language, right? Very open, right? When you have a conversation, try to keep your hands open to have a conversation. Right. The moment you do clenched fists and you have a conversation, people are like, oh, right? And the moment that you start pointing, right? Like, oh, what's going on? How are you doing? Like people are like, oh, it's a little assertive. So there's a lot of that stuff that happens too. So remember that. I mean, and it's funny because we do it innately when we're having a conversation online. Like if I close my eye and I was really assertive, I'd be like, are you kidding me right now? Like, I mean, it easily happens. So, we need to be aware of those things. We're definitely intellectual beings. So, we can change that if we need to. It's a learned behavior.
So the other thing that comes to mind for me that I think is really worth underscoring in this, initial starting of the conversation stage, I've seen a lot of businesses born not from an idea that someone tried to push, but rather out of conversations that just naturally turned into a business. My first business, not my first job, but my first business came out of the fact that, near the end of my university years, so maybe when I was in year three, maybe year two, year three, my peers were starting to apply to law school, to grad school,
Mhm.
medical school for grants. And somehow I was naturally the person they called and said, I'm trying to figure out what my theme should be in my statement or whatever. And I was never having a sales call. Not once did I think I was turning that into a business in those early stages. I was asking questions like, okay, well, why forget about the application? Why do you really want to go to medical school? Why is this grant the one? Is it the only one you're eligible for? Really trying to understand and then helping them articulate it. And discovering through that question and answer process where they struggled in articulating it. And then I ended up with a business for about 10 years where I helped people with applications for academic programs and grants. And I'm very proud to say I have a 100% success rate with my clients. The only academic application I've ever failed on is my own PhD application. So clearly I need help too.
Mhm.
But my point is, if you go in with this idea of a checklist and forget the authenticity part of it, then you you might be going in with an agenda that doesn't actually align. And if you just hear people out and have a real conversation, they might actually teach you the anatomy of a sales call, by using you as a resource. And then at the end of all of that, how can I help? If there's something that I could do for you that would take you to the next step, that would speed it up, that would make it easier, that alleviates some stress, what can I do for you? And we don't do it that way. We lead product first. Look at this product, isn't it pretty?
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
And it's like, I don't want to see another box, leave me alone. um, Excuse that. I shouldn't have said that way, but anyway, all right. Anybody who knows my inappropriate behavior or a joke,
Sense of
inappropriate
humor.
humor, thank you. We'll get a chuckle out of that. Okay, so when you pick up the phone and you
Yep.
call somebody,
Mhm.
give me, like, I'm assuming 80% of the time, 70% of the time, it's a similar kind of intro. Maybe there are going to be some unique ones every now and then, but tell me
Sure.
about how do you usually start a call?
Yeah. So there needs to be three main things that I can articulate to a person when I start a call, when I do an intro. So the first step here of a sales call, if we break it down, is introduce yourself, right?
Hmm.
Um, so number one is who you are,
Hmm.
okay, what you're doing,
Hmm.
and why they should listen to you, or why they like what's the goal of this kind of conversation. I would say those are the kind of the three main things. So if
Hmm.
you know what those three things are,
Yeah.
hi, my name is Dustin, I'm calling on behalf of Payment Evolution because of, you fall into a category of business that we actually help out a ton with, and number three, again, well, the reason I'm reaching out is because there's this. I think there might be a little synergy here. Not looking actually to sell, but to find out if there is some type of, mutual compatibility.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
Um,
Totally.
and so that itself, if you this is going to sound very manipulative, but if you tell a person you're not going to sell them,
Hmm.
and you sell them,
Hmm.
this
No.
doesn't work. you know.
No, I'm being hounded by a company right now that I won't talk to at all anymore because I've said to them very clearly, I understand you have a sales process. I can feel it. I know that you've worked this to a fine science, but I am a unique buyer. So can we please do it my way? And they keep trying to go back to their process and their script. And at the very end of the last time I engaged with them, I was like, I feel completely disrespected. I feel completely unheard. And now it's been 3 months and I'm getting the compulsory, "It's been a while since we spoke."
Uh,
Well, you know what? If you actually looked at the notes or heard me, you'll see that I said, "This is never going to fly."
Right.
I believe in uniqueness. I believe in awareness. I believe in spending time and paying attention and learning about who you're talking to. You are putting me into a box and it's not going to work. I'm not, I
Mhm.
just can't buy from you. I can't, because you are going to try and get me to sell the way you sell and market the way you market. And that's not my MO.
Right.
So yeah, like I think you can kind of shoot yourself in the foot by trying to force something on a buyer, on a somebody you've called, that doesn't work for them.
It happens all the time. There's that inconsistency all the time, unfortunately. Like, hey, what am I here to do? Like, why'd you call me? Why'd you call me now,
Yeah.
Dustin? It's like, oh, I called. No, I didn't call to sell. And so there's a couple different thoughts on this, right?
Yeah.
People are like, well, like, what are you, a professional, just a visitor, caller? Like,
Yeah.
no, like. The tactic is this: is that I want to come to have a conversation with you. So if a person says, "Hey, what's the end reason for the call?" I say, "Well, I want to find out if there's even a worth a conversation at this point in time." Right in
Yes.
your intro, once you step over that intro and they say, "Hey, I will honor you with 10 more seconds, 15 more seconds, a minute of my time."
Hmm.
It's really important at that point in time to say, well, I'd love to continue on with asking you just a couple of qualifying questions to see if this is something that even is worth your time. It's
Yeah.
worth my time to have a conversation with you. I can guarantee you that. But I want to
Yes.
make sure that I'm respecting the client and the customer, right? One of the
Yes.
8 steps. I want to respect your time. Can I ask you some questions just to make sure that we can find out if this is not something we should move forward with?
Hmm. Hmm.
And they'll say, sure.
Yeah.
That's what you usually get. Sure.
Totally.
That's the answer. You ask a couple of questions, right? Depending on what you're trying to find out. Usually, whatever system, service, product, whatever you're selling is going to have a couple of criteria, because you're going to have an ideal client profile that you're dealing with, and you're going
Yes.
to want to get that assessed. And
Hmm.
then when you have that questioning discovery kind of part of the conversation, the one thing you need to remember is stop doing what 90% of the population does, which is your brain has this awesome power of finding patterns.
Yeah.
Okay. And instead of taking 1 or 2 points of data and creating this whole story of how you can help them out, stop and listen more.
Hmm.
It's called the questioning and listening stage for a reason.
Hmm.
Okay. So have the conversation,
Yeah.
ask some qualifying questions, dig
Hmm.
deeper, be curious, be genuine, make
Yeah.
them feel like they're the only ones in the world. So you're telling me, and repeat it back to them. So you're telling me, from what I'm hearing right now, that currently you have about 5 employees. You're trying to be able to help yourself and find this, and this is one of the key, struggles that you're dealing with, and you don't know what the answer could be for you, but you're willing to explore a little bit more.
Hmm.
And then if they tell you something and you regurgitate it back, all of a sudden they're going to be like, "Oh my God, you get me.
You heard me,
You
right?
heard me."
Yeah.
And you the key here is you need to hear them.
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Don't just be like, "Oh yeah, sure," like I'm gonna make them feel like that,
Yeah.
because then this is disingenuous. It's not genuine at
Totally.
all, and
And it doesn't. Yeah, it
it
doesn't
won't
work.
work. It
Yeah.
won't work.
You can't fake energy. You can't fake a vibe.
Mhm.
You can force yourself to do things that wouldn't necessarily come naturally. So, for example, you can actively listen, which maybe it's your last sales call of the day and you're
Mhm.
very tired and you need to choose to be there. You need to choose to
Right.
listen and shut off all the other
Mhm.
things going on in your mind. And maybe that is a little bit of an artificial piece, but but it's leading to an actual outcome, as opposed to just moving forward. And like I'm positive this happens. People who do sales calls all day long stop even hearing the person and then just jump into the two common problems they always hear.
Yeah.
You know
Auditory scotomo. It's a
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
If you have that time where have you ever gone to your cupboard and you're like, "Honey, where's the sugar? I'm trying to get some sugar for my tea or my coffee," and you're like, and they're like, "It's in the cupboard." And you're like, you open the cupboard, you're like, "No, it's not here. Like, where is it? Where is it, honey?" And they're like,
Hmm.
"Honey, it's in the cupboard." And then you're looking around, you're like, "It's not here. Geez, come here." And then they walk over, open it up, and you're like, "What's that, dummy?"
Right there.
And
Yeah.
you're like, oh yeah, there's a visual scotoma. It happens auditorially. You know,
Yes.
it's because our brain is trying to take in a lot of the information that we're dealing with, and we're not prioritizing what's important, what's in front of us, what we're trying to act. We're too we're unfocused is basically what it is, and we do it all the time on a sales call. And
Yeah.
then people are like, "Oh, they weren't listening to me." It's like,
Hmm.
no, no,
They're
no, no, no,
human.
no,
It's tough,
no,
you know?
no.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you are experiencing the way that you experience the world
Hmm.
is through your reality and you don't see it, it's not another person. It is
Yeah.
this machine that you need to
Yeah.
elevate,
Yes. Yes. Yes.
right?
Totally.
So
Totally.
that's kind of like the that aspect. But the next step is really important. So now when you have enough data and you
Yes.
can create a helpful solution or something, that's when you actually present or deliver that aspect of the pitch. So the first is make your introduction, who you are, what you're supposed to do, what are what's the end goal of that, right?
Hmm.
um, you ask your questions, qualify, be genuine, be curious to find out if there is even a solution for us to even have a conversation. If you find out that they're not a qualified individual, the call would very much end there. How powerful is it when you're like, you know what, this
Yeah.
doesn't you don't qualify with regards to what I think that we're trying to help you out here.
Yeah.
And you say, I don't think this is going to be a good fit.
Yeah.
People actually going to be like, no, but I want to hear what you have to say. So,
Hmm.
like, because all of a sudden you're qualifying them.
Yeah, not just that. I've seen with salespeople who are that forthcoming and not trying to bait somebody, but just honestly, from what I've heard, I don't think this is the right thing for you. I've seen people go out of their way to leave a review for that person on
Mhm.
LinkedIn or on Google for the company or whatever,
Yeah.
never having bought the product, to say, I really want to appreciate, whoever, for being honest with me. And it's
Mhm.
just like, wow, like we're craving honesty so much. We're craving authenticity and to not be lied to or played. So yeah, it's okay to say, thank you so much for your time. I'm not going to waste another second. I don't think this is a fit for you. These are the reasons why. You agree? Okay, awesome. You don't agree? Okay, well, let's talk further. It's just
Yeah.
real. Be
And
real.
then the cool thing is that even if you end the call there, the client might say, they might give you that actual review, but they might even say, actually, you know what? But let me know a little bit more, because I might know someone who might benefit from this, and I can
Yeah,
actually. I'm thinking about my cousin who
yeah,
actually, we just talked about a conversation about this. Can you tell me a little bit more? And you might get a referral out of it. So this is great. Even at the second step of a conversation or of a pitch or of a sales call, you've disqualified somebody, but you've already got an advocate, and you always have a referral at that point in time. It can be that fast. And so yeah, it's really interesting that a lot of people, again, I always get referrals from it that way.
yeah.
People say, how do you get people to just give you referrals? It's like, no, I don't get people to give you a
Yes,
referral. I just
it's truly a referral.
yeah,
It's a gift.
I don't coerce them to do it.
Yeah.
They do it because it is a byproduct of the honesty that comes out of a discipline that's what it was many years ago. And unfortunately got a bad rap when it scaled with the advent of technology and people trying to be more money driven and more money hungry and all that type of stuff,
Hmm.
which is a great goal. A great goal is to accumulate wealth so you can do the things you like to do with the people you love. But the moment it's just a matter of greed that happens, unfortunately. And so
Sure.
you need to be careful, and you need to internalize, find out what's the real goal.
Yeah.
But the next step is usually the presentation.
Yeah.
So
Okay. Fair enough. So just before we jump there, and I know we're tight on time, but just before we jump there, I have to share. There's one salesperson that I know who has a very different introduction approach that works really really well for her. And I think the best example, she was reaching out to top performing brokers, essentially trying to get them to change the franchise they were operating under.
okay.
And so you're talking like a lot of money. You're talking people that are doing, many, many, many millions of dollars in business, and it's going to cost maybe probably over 1 million to make the change. And the inside sales group that she was a part of, they were compensated in a small way for booking appointments, but in like a 6-month period, one inside salesperson might book 10 appointments.
Oh wow.
And And that was hard come by. That was full-time work. Crazy, right? Well, she took a completely different approach where instead of calling and saying, "Hi, I'm so and so from this franchise and I'd like to talk to you about your business." She called and she's like, "Hey, James, how's it going? Beautiful day out. Are you going away this long weekend?" And the guy's like, yeah, actually, I'm sorry, who is this?" And she's like, "Oh, I'm this person from this company." "Oh, you guys are always calling me." "Yeah, we are. You know, it can be annoying sometimes, can't it?" And she's just being real. And she's like, "Look, I don't want to sell anything to you today. If you want to talk about it further, cool. I'll book you an appointment with the people who do that stuff. But I
Mm,
just want to know, honest to God, like I want to know, you are one of the top performers in this field, but you're not represented by one of the top brands in this field. Why?" And sometimes, like, it really was a curiosity of hers. And sometimes the answer was, early in my career, you guys did me wrong, or, "Oh, I hate that brand." And talk about getting a real answer and making it clear that that person's never going to sign up, but having a good conversation. And then there were folks who were like, "Honestly, I just I'm fine as I am, and it's going to take so much work to switch." And immediately getting a real answer. And it was just because she was curious. She was not a subject matter expert in this industry.
mhm.
She just approached it like my dad brought home a friend. And I'm sitting there going, "I want to know why. Why aren't you doing this?" Just a
Right.
curious question, and it worked so damn well. She outperformed all of her peers by at least 10 times each
Mm.
one. So incredible how sometimes just going through the process and being a human being can teach you the anatomy of a sales call that's appropriate for that piece. Okay, cool. Sorry, I wanted to share that story because it was just sort of the other end of the spectrum,
Sure. Yeah. Absolutely.
and a unique situation.
Yeah. Very very unique sense of indifference that came from that. But
Mhm.
curiosity as well.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So we were so we've talked about the intro. We've talked a bit about qualifying and understanding, having that empathy, and trying to understand, why should they care? Why do they care? Can you help? What might help them? And then presentation is next. I think one of the simplest questions, like that I think is like a big picture thing here too, is, do I want to go in with, one main pitch, one main thing, one main benefit? Do I want to have my three favorite? Do I want to give you the whole kit and caboodle? What do I, what's going to be best received by
Yeah. Well,
by that audience?
Well, I think it depends on your questioning and listening phase. So when you're starting to have that conversation with them, um, with whomever it is, a service or product that you're providing, you're going to realize which solutions are in your arsenal that you'll be able to help, and those are the ones that you present. You can add more value to
Yeah.
somebody. So, for example, if a person needs they're going to the cottage and they're going to go jump in the lake and they want a pair of water shoes, but you sell them Jordans, they're going to be like, "No, get out of here."
Hmm.
Right? Like, and so you need to be aware of that as well. So if you have, in our case here at Payment Others, we have 4 or 5 core products. If they need 3 and 2
Yeah.
of them they have handled, like, let's talk about the 3 because that'll be the most overall holistic value that you can provide for them. So I think it's important that you realize that sure you can start with one, but if you
Hmm.
start with one and then you add something on top of that, and then you add something on top of that, people say, "Oh, well, you're a great upseller." Well, no, the client has to be open. You would have had the trust for them to be able to do that. You didn't do that. They let you do that. So,
Hmm.
what usually is a scenario that's best is come with everything. And
Hmm.
if they're like, "That's expensive," or "I don't want that because of everything. I do like this and this," then it's better to aim for the sun or stars and fall amongst, or aim for the moon and fall amongst the stars, or whatever that goes.
Yes.
Then go to Mount Olympus and then go to the stratosphere, then go to like
Hmm.
it doesn't make sense to do it that way. You're doing more work. You're making your life more difficult, as a salesperson, but you're also being disrespectful to the client. Don't don't just add, right?
Yes.
Because then you have to do a lot more selling to
Yeah.
do it. Okay. But if you
Yes.
come to hey, this is the whole thing. I've had this conversation. We've qualified everything. Here's everything that you need. We have these other things, but clearly you don't need those because of this, this, and this. Oh, well, let me know. I want to know about those. Okay, no problem. So let
Yes.
me know. And that,
Yes. Sorry, you bring up a good piece here, because maybe like at that moment where it comes to presentation, you might as a salesperson feel like you need to have the answers. And so you're going to go into presentation stage and immediately you're going to say, these are the three things you care about. Maybe you need to sometimes check in and say, you know, I think these three things are most important to you, but what do you want to hear about? And it's very possible they might mention they haven't even brought up yet.
absolutely.
You
So
know?
checking in. You cannot be ranting at this individual. This needs to be a conversation. So when you're having that conversation and you're saying, "Here's what I think," am I right to assume this?
Yeah.
You know, and you give them a check in, and they'll say, "Yep, you're right about that."
Yeah.
You know, and if I have all these other things. Should I include these, or it doesn't make sense?
Yes.
Yes, include those. Oh, okay, great.
Mhm.
No,
Mhm.
so interact, please, right?
Yeah.
And when you present everything, after that is done, there's usually going to be a section where people maybe have some questions for you, and they may come off as like "I'm not interested" type of thing. Questions like,
Mhm.
"Oh yeah, but what does that cost?"
Yes. Yes.
When a
Yes.
person says, "Well, what does that cost?" What you're hearing is their tone of like, "Oh, let me guess, because it's something I like, it's going to be friggin' expensive."
Yes.
Right, but the
Mhm.
actuality is like that's a buying signal. It's not an objection. So you answer the question. We're like, well, I'll tell you what, the cost is this. I'm not trying to swindle you in any way, shape, or form,
Mhm.
but I think it's safe to say that if this is some of the things that you're looking to address, this is really great value.
Yes.
Or do you believe that it's not great value? I'm not
Yeah.
talking about price. Do you think that's great value? And they'll give you an answer, yes, no, right? If they say no, that you'll know that it's not a matter of just cost. It's also a matter of the value, articulated value that they're hearing,
Mhm.
and that it's not being presented maybe in a way. But if they say yes, they will say the cost justifies what they're asking.
Yes.
And once that happens, then a person is going to they'll ask you some questions that are going to be really specific before you get to the next step, which is a close. So you need to handle those objections in a very easy manner, which is you
Mhm.
need to agree with them. Yeah, I think that's a valid concern or a valid question.
Sure.
You need to agree with them. Be like, I
Mhm.
think, yeah, absolutely. So agree.
Hear
You need to
them. Yeah.
you hear. You got to kill the objection by saying, well, I have answered it.
Mhm.
Are we okay to move on, or do you have any other questions about that? Kill the
Yep.
objection and then close again. So the idea is you go back to the step where you were. So close the objection, come back to the conversation. So
Yes.
AKC, agree, kill, close is really what is that type of handling of
Agree. Say it
kill
again.
the agree with them, kill the objection, go back to the conversation, close,
Yes.
right?
Mhm. I like that. I've never actually heard that.
Yeah, AKC is good old. It's very different from always be closing, right?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
we don't want to always be closing because if you're
Yeah.
closing something, you never know. It could be a really bad experience.
Yeah.
Um,
For sure.
so you agree with them. You say, okay, well, can we move on forward? Is that okay? Or do you have any other questions? I'd love to address them right now.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure.
And then go back to the conversation, close the objection, get back,
Yeah.
and
Totally.
then the next step really is kind of the close of the pitch. That's step number 4,
Mhm.
the close, and the close is actually really simple. I mean, I think we had a conversation about this slightly before, where I said, the close actually should be the easiest step if
Yes.
you've done the intro properly, the
Yes.
questioning and listening properly, and you've done the presentation, properly and handle those objections. The close is
Mhm.
easy. The close is actually like, well, correct me if I'm wrong here, Juliana. Our conversation, I think, was super fruitful. There's
Yes.
a ton of value here.
Mhm.
Um, you know, if I've addressed all your questions, would you like to move forward? Is this something that
Mhm.
you're looking to move forward with?
Yeah.
And many times the people will tell you yes, no, maybe so, and that's no problem. They always had that choice.
Yes.
What you want is them to say yes, but if they don't say yes, that means they say maybe is
Yeah.
50% of the time, right? Like,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
then the other part of it is no, because I have this question, or no,
Yes.
because I maybe I didn't answer another we didn't answer another objection of theirs, right?
Mhm.
So the moment that they say no, you say, okay, no problem. Well, I mean, clearly there's something that's maybe hindering the conversation, because there is a lot of value here, as you said, yes. But what maybe stops you? What I don't like making decisions on the spot. I hate commitment. I'm a divorcee. I don't want to commit anything anymore. You know, like it's like, oh, okay. So not to kind of give a bad rap, just try to be a sense of humor here with our
for sure.
with our marital issues here. But but the truth is that someone will tell you, and then that's a great way to kind of close the objection and say, okay, well, do you have any other questions? I really want to make sure that I'm not wasting your time here, because I would be doing a disservice to you if I didn't answer all your questions. And I would also be doing a disservice to you if there's this much value that you've clearly said to me. You said this, this, and this, and this. Am I right?
Yeah.
Yes, I did say that. Okay. Is there something that we can move forward with? Can I help you out with it? Or maybe it doesn't make sense to do it now, but maybe we can get this started for a week from now, or at the end of the month when you feel more comfortable about it. Is that sound more off? And they'll tell you yes, no, maybe so, and then you can kind of continue that process. But ultimately, the close should be the really simple side of, hey, does this make sense? Should we move forward? I think, I don't want to insult your intelligence by saying that I think it does, and I could be completely wrong. But please tell me. I mean, this is a conversation. Is there value here?
Totally. Well, and I think recapping in a way that doesn't prioritize your outcome, like literally recapping, is a great way to close. So, we've talked about this. I understand that these are the issues as I understand them. I think, we've determined that this could be a good fit. It'll take you this much time to implement. It'll cost you this much. Is that worth it to you? Do you want me to help you set that up?
That is actually the next step. It's called rehash, or call to action, right? Which is basically, I'm going to reiterate what I just talked about, just to make sure that I'm not swindling you here. Sure. It's called a rehash. Exactly what you just said. Good to move forward. Yes, perfect. It's going to start on this date. We're going to do this. And then I can reiterate. I can say like, oh, you said this, this, and this, but you're not interested in these because you don't have that money to spend, you said, or you don't find it valuable. And they'll be like, no, wait a minute. Maybe it's better to put everything together. Right? Yeah.
Take
and
a
then
look.
You're like, oh, okay. Rehash. Right? Reiterate and, rearticulate what you just went through.
Totally.
And then worst case scenario, if all else fails, what you want to do is have a call to action or a next step. Okay, well, the next step is this. Are you okay with that next step? Yes, I am.
Yes. Yeah, fair enough. And that's really the ideal scenario where we can help people. It's there's actual alignment. The value is perceived and received. And that's a win-win for everybody. And I can't underscore that enough, especially in today's economy. As an organization, Payment Evolution is here to support, promote, and grow small businesses to help support them. And that's like, that needs to be part of everyone's MO in a global economy. We are part of the same ecosystem here financially, and we need to all succeed in order for any of us to succeed. So no, I don't want to sell you something you don't need. I want you to succeed. I don't want you to spend a dime where you don't need to. I want it to be valuable. So it's really interesting there. I would say, if I could sum this up, I would say there are best practices and there are steps and there are principles, and you can Google the heck out of it and you can read all day long. And that is a worthwhile exercise. There are going to be gems in there that really resonate with you, things that stick with you and are easy to implement. But when all else fails, or on top of all that other stuff, the icing on the sales cake is to care about what you're doing and to show up and do it well. Be real.
Absolutely. Because what are the options if you don't? You don't do it well.
And it's Fakeville and no one likes
you.
you.
Right? Or you fail at it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, there's really one way of doing this properly. And a lot of people in the sales world are going to say, no, you be aggressive, be aggressive, right? Or they're going to say, like, always close, be assertive, don't be stupid, And ultimately, there's this mentality of unfortunately people being very aggressive on the, saying something to the effect of like, hey, your commission is in their pocket, so get it done. No, like, I get what you're trying to say. take control is what you're trying to say.
Yeah.
But you're so frustrated at this person not doing it properly, they haven't been trained properly, that you're saying be aggressive even though it probably won't help you.
And setting them up for failure.
Right. And the idea, really should be is, as a wise man once said, I believe this was Zig Ziglar, one of these sales gurus back in the day. Because unfortunately, rest in peace, is the poor guy. He's been gone for a little bit. He said, I can get anything I want as long as I help enough people get what they want. And so if that's the kind of overall idea and capacity and theme and mentality and kind of thought process, then you're gonna do well. People are gonna be okay. The world will align to the goal that you're trying to achieve, because it is honorable and valored, and there's a lot of that. So you got to remember that mentality. People say, Dustin, that sounds a little too fluffy, and it's like, then what's the opposite? What's the other side? The other side is like, everyone's out to get you. You're never going to reach your goal. I'd rather be on the positive side, right? Than be on the negative side. And people are like, well, I'm not negative. I'm just a realist. I was like, okay, fine. You're a realist, but in our reality, there is a duality in life, right? There actually isn't anything positive or negative here. It's whatever you associate a negative connotation to something negative, you know. But in the world, just because there's something bad that happens, many times, almost every single time, there is something positive that comes out of something like that, and vice versa. If you could win the lottery, but you can learn that you have an addiction problem and you go through that money really quickly. Like there's a lot of just on the other side of things, right? So two sides to a coin. The duality of life is real. And I think it's important for us to realize and not be so short-sighted that sales in general, if you're running a business, if you're running a consultancy, service-based, product-based, whatever it is, you need to have a great understanding of, your surrounding, your world, and you need to be in a mental state that is going to be beneficial and abundant for you, as opposed to scarce and not helpful. Because then why would anybody talk to you? Well, it's the best looking product out there. What does it matter? If you're a jerk, it doesn't matter.
Yes.
Yes. But anyways, that's also getting into back to mindset. And
I feel like this makes me rethink some of these topics in terms of, we could literally spend an hour talking about one stage of the sales call. We could spend a week talking about mindset. There's so much minutia. The subtleties is where you achieve the success, and it ultimately, it's kind of something that I believe, and it aligns with this, is one of the simplest concepts, but almost impossible thing to achieve: self-awareness.
Yeah,
critical to everything. And there is no perfection. There's no perfect destination here. It's a constant uphill battle to fully know thyself. And and it's all in that nuance. And it's definitely worth discussing.
And like you said, I want you to, for all the people who are out there, it's like playing golf. Okay. It's not the big changes that you make the most impact, in your swing or how you play. It's the small things that take off one stroke, take off two strokes, from your game. And it's the subtle things that you need to make sure that you're paying attention to, as opposed to the large things. The large things, the big rocks should be there. You should have a reason, a mission to why you're doing what you're doing. You should have the right intention to do it. Why you're doing that. If you're we can go on for hours about this, but ultimately, you need to make a decision saying, I want to do this for this reason. And that is a great story to articulate, and it's great marketing, great blogs. It's like you can use all of that, right? So
absolutely.
To sell your company and sell you. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, endless. Okay, I want to thank you very much, Dustin, for joining me today. It's been like, you've got a wealth of experience and wealth of knowledge, so thank you for sharing that. If folks want to get in touch with you, how do they do that?
Yeah, well, they can call into Payment Evolution anytime, 647-776-7600. I do my best to make myself myself available for those who are on there. I am the head of sales, so we do have a team members that kind of man the phones and all that. But if you want to reach me directly, you can send me an email, dustin@paymentevolution.com.
Very cool. All right. Thank you so much, Dustin. I'm going to say thank you everyone for your attention today, for your energy. I know that on
Yeah,
a
thanks
Friday
everybody.
afternoon, on a Friday afternoon, it's there's probably still a long to-do list, but also the need for connection and the need for just feeding your soul. So I hope we were able to play a role in that today. Please tweet us at payevo at PAYEVO. You can tweet us your comments, your questions, your feedback. What do you want to hear next? What do you want us to talk about? We are here for you. I'm Juliana. You can find me online at JTCINA. I've got it in the bottom of the screen there. And yeah, really happy to help you guys grow your vision, your business, your purpose. So thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks everybody. Yeah, absolutely. You can search for me online as well if you like, at Dustin Meneses, or on Twitter, at LinkedIn, full name Dustin Meneses, on on Facebook, you name it, I'm on everything. So I'm just, the only thing I'm not doing is dancing on TikTok right now. So
that's next. As the lockdown gets announced. We all need a pastime.
Thank you, everybody.
All right. Bye-bye, everyone. Have a good one. Talk soon. Bye.